Do you need a USB flash drive? Are you interested in making your own storage device? Would you like to look at some interesting options? Well, stay tuned and we'll go over some choices just for you. Welcome to another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter, your home for all things relating to smart home technology. In this episode, we're going to talk about creating your own storage device. Hi, I'm Ron Nutter and we're going to be working on this together. This content is also available as an Amazon Flash briefing or podcast. Please go to techbiteswithronnutter.com for more information. For any items mentioned in this episode, there are affiliate links in the description. If you click on these links, I will get a small commission, but that won't affect the price you pay for the item. If you want to get notified when new content is uploaded, please click on subscribe and enable notifications. Now here's what we're going to be covering in this video, and that's how to make your own storage device. First, we'll go over the required items. Then we'll show you a way using an SD or a micro SD card. Then we'll talk about using an M.2 SSD. And if you're really adventurous, then we'll show you a way of how to use a device that will let you run dual M.2s. And you've got some options there that are going to be very interesting. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, if you're like me, invariably you need a flash drive to move files between one system to another, or whatever reason you may need it for, and you never can seem to lay your hands on one, and you really don't want to go run to the store and go buy yet another one, or have to wait for a couple of days for one to be delivered. You may already have most of the parts on hand, so let's go over what some of the options I'm using are, and at least give you some ideas if nothing else. The first one that we're going to deal with here is one from RockeTek, and this is one that I have used for many years. This is handy because you can use both SD and micro SD, and it has several advantages. You can see now it's a little bit bulky over some of your flash drives, but it has a nice cover to protect that USB connector, because let's face it, if I'm going to have a damage occur, it's going to be that USB connector. But it has a good, what I'll call a latching cover for your micro SD or SD card. You can see it takes both. You just pick which one you want to go to, and the rest is history. So let's go ahead and flip over here to demo cam. It's that simple. So I'm just going to pop open the cover, and this is nothing you haven't seen before, but it's just a little bit different, and I've got it in upside down, but that's all right. Put in there, click the cover, and then we'll switch over to our Intel NUC, and we'll get it plugged in, and we should see something up here in just a moment. We'll get Crystal out of the way here. Now, it automatically, depending on the SD card that you've got, it should automatically come up and just not show you anything. Some of the SD cards may need to be formatted. As a general rule, whatever device I'm using the SD card in, if I'm going to be writing to it, I format it in that device. So that's going to be just as simple as right-clicking on it, format. Depending on what you're going to be doing, you've got a choice of exFAT or NTFS. I would go exFAT because NTFS, if you're going to a non-Windows system, that means you're going to have to find some sort of NTFS overlay or plug-in or add-on for you to be able to read it. And exFAT just simply is universal. It works, and that's just the way that I usually go. So that's one option. Now, this next option is going to be a little bit different, but it's got some interesting possibilities. We're going to be dealing with the Sabrient option. This one takes your standard M.2 SATA SSD. This is where it makes it a little bit different. Now it only takes just the one, so you're basically getting a flash drive like you're used to. Let's look here on the other side, and it's a little hard to see here, and I'll show you here in just a second what you're looking at. It has both SATA and USB, and as I promised, and we're going to shift over here to demo cam. It's going to be a little bit easier to see, and if I can get the light just right. Now, as you can see, it's got, and unfortunately, see if I can get the camera to focus a little bit better. There we go. Now you see it's got the SATA connector, but it's also got a USB connector. So with this option, you've got the option of using it internally with a computer, or you can use it externally if you've got the SATA to USB external cable that are available from a variety of sources, and I've got a link in the description for one. Or you can use the cable they supply and go directly to USB. So let's see about getting this all put together. To their credit, they give you a little tab on the back, which makes getting this apart a lot easier. So we'll get our Kingston put in. Now this sits flush right on the board, so we'll first get it. There we go. You will just screw it right down. Now some of these will have a plastic nub, but as you can see in this case, it's set up for being attached with a screw. And really from a heat transfer standpoint, that's probably the better way to go. So I keep realizing you can't see what I'm seeing. So let's get the screw package open here. And I always have something to catch the screws when I'm working on. So we'll need one of the bigger screws and we'll hold it down. And then that's all there is to it. We'll put the case back on. And it only goes on one way, fortunately. That'll put it, and I'm not going to put the case screws in because we're going to be doing some other things with this shortly. So what we'll do now is come over here and we'll take the cable, plug it in to the USB port, and then we'll move it over here to our Intel NUC, and we should see something come up here in just a second. If it doesn't pop up right away, that's an indication that we're going to need to go into Disk Manager. Yeah, it's not showing, so this is unformatted. So we will go Control Panel. Okay, so there's Disk Management. Okay, so it sees that it hasn't been formatted, so that's not a big deal. At this point, I still lean towards Master Boot Record. Certainly there's no reason why you couldn't go with GPT. I'm just going with what works. See, we've already got it formatted. We go down here, and then it's just a matter of, we'll just do a simple volume. We are not going to assign it. Well, we'll go ahead and assign a drive letter. And we'll select exFAT. We'll just leave the volume in the way it is, quick format. And this shouldn't take but just a few seconds, literally, and it already gets in. Now, I do need to make sure that I tell you that I am using a specific kind of Kingston SSD, and this is the one I've used for quite a while on different projects. And this is it's affordable. It's been easy to get, unlike some of the things that I'm sure we've all been using and had to make some adjustments on. So I'm using 2 of these. You don't have to use Kingston. That's just the one I've been able to get readily for use in some of the different projects you've seen me do videos on. So this is going to get us started. And now this time we're going to be dealing with the StarTech RAID adapter. And yes, I did say RAID. And if you're not familiar with RAID, this is a unique feature that I've only found in this device, in that this one can handle 2 SSDs. The nice thing about this is that if one fails, and it's possible that one could fail, the mirrored one, because this will only do RAID 1 in terms of, well, it will do RAID 0 as well, but RAID 1 is what I'm looking at this for, because there's some things when I'm transferring files over from different videos I've shot or things that I'm doing, I don't want to run the risk of losing what I've put on there, because I always like having a backup. And with doing RAID 1, then you've got an option. This is very easy to set up, and let's switch over here to demo cam. And I've already got the 2 SSDs laid out here, and it comes with the screws already removed. So we'll put these in. Now for this, the feature on this, well, not feature, what you have to be aware of on this one is this one only has the SATA connector. So you're to get things to work, you're going to have a SATA to USB cable. You're talking a few dollars, so that's not a big deal, especially when you've got the ability to do RAID 1. Now, do check the manual, because it goes over the different options. So you can make the 2 SSDs one big drive. You can make it RAID 0, so it's striping. You can have 2 individual drives. There's a lot that you can do here. So what I'm going to do is make this RAID 1. So according to the directions, it says RAID 1's going to be on, and then off. And let's turn this around here to make sure I've got it right. Okay, so J4, 5, and 6. Okay, so J4 will be on, and it says 1, but they're meaning off at this point. Then that's going to be in the on position. Okay, so what we'll do here is go ahead and get the first one and play, and you've got several bags of screws here, so you can do this with just one SSD, so that's certainly your call. Well, sometimes it helps when you bother to read the manual, but let's face it, who of us techies bothers to read the manual? In this case, you really need to, because I had to take the board out of the housing, so that, not a big deal, you just lifted it out and put it in. And then I put in the SSD, and then the hardware that came in the 2 bags, you'll have to manually put that in. It says removing the pre-installed hardware. Well, there was nothing pre-installed on the one that I got. So what we'll do here is we'll just open up this other bag, try to walk you through it as best I can. So we'll first take the SSD. If you turn it around the right way, that helps. So we'll put that in here. We will put a little, what I'll call a brass or copper screw through the hole, and we'll hold it while we turn it over. Then we'll hold the nut right on top. And this is where you may need to have like a set of jeweler's pliers to get everything put together, because your fingers may not be able to handle that real well. So we've got both of those put in place. So we'll just put this back in the housing. Then we'll put the cover and make sure we've got our switches at on, which is because we're going to set this up as RAID 1. And the nice thing is that with the RAID being done in hardware, then there shouldn't be any problem with moving this to another system. Okay, so we got this ready to go. So now we'll take the SATA to USB cable. We'll plug that in and we'll connect it to our handy Intel nut. And then we'll switch over here. Manage. Okay, we'll click on manage. So we'll go to disk management. Okay, it sees that it's not formatted, so that's fine. I'm going to select master boot record because that's just the method I normally use. Now, see, it's only showing, we click OK, and it's already got it. You're only seeing what looks like one, and that's because we've got it running in RAID 1. We'll say simple, next, take the defaults. We'll let it assign a drive letter, and we'll go exFAT, and we'll call this StarTech, next. And that's it. It's that simple. So we've got 3 different options to go with. It just depends on what you've got laying around and how you want to take precautions to losing or potentially losing information. This is, there's not one right or wrong way to do this, but there's 3 different options. And with having lost files in the past, not necessarily to hardware failure, but it's nice having an automatic backup in there that's very transparent. You don't have to think about it, because you notice we only had to format one, just the logical drive. You see crystal disk mark over here, and this is one that if you really want to see what the throughputs you can expect are, this is a tool that will at least give you a thumbnail sketch. So we'll drop down here, and we've got, it comes up as D drive in my case, and we'll click on all. So it's creating a test file, and then it will start moving things across and just checking to see how well it's doing for the different tests. And it at least gives you an idea of what you can expect in terms of performance. So if you have an external drive or even an internal that you're not sure how it is responding correctly, or if it's responding as quickly as it should, this will at least give you an idea of what to look at. Okay, this only took about 5 minutes. I've sped it up so that you don't have to sit through the whole thing step by step, but you can see this at least gives you a benchmark of how the device is responding. So if you're trying a new SSD or an SD, however you're testing things, then this at least gives you a benchmark on how it's performing, so that over time, I'm not saying do this every day, but it's up to you. If you think it's running slow, you can run this, and at least gives you an idea of how it's doing. And then of course, keeping a copy of the information so you can compare over time if it's starting to degrade. And that might give you an early warning when you need to replace one of those. Like I said, we've talked about 3 different options. We're using an SD card or 2 different ways of doing the M.2 with the Sabrient adapter. We've got a single M.2 SSD with the StarTech. We've got a dual one, so you can go to RAID 1, or you can increase the capacity, you can span. There's a lot of options here to work with. With the Sabrient, to its credit, it came with a USB cable, so you can plug it right in. With the StarTech, you will need to get an extra cable to convert the SATA connector to USB, but it's just a matter of how you do it. That was not a big deal for me. I'm erring more to the having RAID 1. That's if you've ever had a drive failure or lost drives for whatever reason, it's nice to know that there is a backup there. It's one less thing that you're going to have to worry about. So you can see some options to work with here. You may want to try more than one, and this is certainly a good way to experiment with the different options that are out there and see what's going to work best for you. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will see videos on the screen that are similar to the ones you've just watched, or other content that YouTube thinks you might be interested in. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on the like button, thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe now and enable notifications. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.